Hi everyone, my name is Mateusz and welcome to my Getting Started with React 16 tutorial. This is the episode 4 and today I'm going to talk about Immutable.js. I know that I promised you last time that we are going to start to develop APIs, but this is the prerequisite for this. So we need to understand immutable concept before we are going to start with our APIs, because we need to define our immutable records. So let's get started. What is immutable? Immutable is a set of data structures built by Facebook, and this data structures helps us to keep the data in immutable state. Why do we want to keep data in immutable state? Because it makes our application easier to debug. So we don't need to check the deep variable modification within our console log and stuff like this. It can be easily tested. We more or less can do testing and debugging within one function. It decreases the complexity of unit testing. It's much easier to test the immutable state because it's much harder to modify it. It's always the same, so the scope of modification of update is usually smaller. It also allows us to easily share the state by references in a lot of places in our applications, because it will be everywhere the same. And this also decreases the complexity of our application. So actually, but what immutable state means? I'm going to explain it on an example. Let's create a new file called state.ts. The file popped up here. And now we are going to create example state. So let's define the type as we are using the TypeScript. So the type state, and our state will contain numbers, an array of numbers. Imagine that we have this state, initial state, which contains numbers from 1 to 6. 3, 4, 5, 6. Now we want to modify. We want to have the separate, the same. We want to change the state to have only even numbers. So we want to just get rid of the odds number. So let's get numbers out of initial state, and let's print how our state look initially. It's initial state, and now we are going to modify our initial state, and we are going to just filter the odd numbers. So we need to define the filter function with parameter which accepts the numbers, and it returns boolean. So we will filter. If it's false, it will get rid of the number. If it's okay, then it will keep it. And we want to leave inside only the numbers which are even. So if we divide the number by 2, we have no rest, nothing left, right? So it equals 0. That's fine. And now let's print the value of our state after after changes. Now we can run this code. As we are using TypeScript, we need to use TS node to run this script. TS node, and the file is called state.ts. Let's run it. And you see, an initial state contains all numbers from 1 to 6, and after changes, it contains only 2, 4, and 6. So all odds are filtered. I mean, odd numbers are filtered. Now, let's try to achieve the same thing with Immutable.js. Let's start from installing the library. So we have to type npm install -- save Immutable.js. Immutable. We don't even need to install the typings for TypeScript, as they are already built in this library. Okay. And now I will create another example, state immutable.ts. And now we need to create the class state class, which actually implements record from Immutable.js. Import record from Immutable. Why we need record? We are going to use record because record is similar to JS object, and it doesn't allow us to modify any values within. So we are going to use it. As we are using TypeScript, the way to define it, it looks more or less like this. And we need to also define the default values. Values for, I mean, the default state. What if we initialize the state without any, parameters, right? So we will just have numbers, the array of numbers, empty array, right? And we put it here. And now we need to define the properties of this class called numbers of arrays, array of numbers, sorry, and constructor, the param. We would need to define something like the type state, but let's call it state params. It's for params, right? Now we have the base state class. So now we can actually define our initial state. So new state and just array of numbers. I mean, as before, from numbers from 1 to 6. Okay, we have it. And now, as we want to also do the same as before, so we just want to modify the initial state to contain, to modify the state to contain only the even numbers. So we will try to do the same. Actually, I will just copy this code from here, paste it, and let's try to run it. Immutable.ts. So created a new file. Okay. This looks fine. This looks fine. Probably this. Typo. Initial state. Okay, sorry, I thought it's missing no the typecasting, but it isn't. Object leaders property number business any type. Yeah, actually it misses the casting. Okay, and this error is what we expected. As you see, error cannot set on an immutable record because we want to have immutable state. But we can get rid of this error by changing the assignment to something like this. So instead of assigning the numbers like this, we can use the set method, like set update numbers, and we just need to copy this callback here. That's good. It will be working, I guess. Initial state, and now it works, right? I will run again. We have initial state, which contains numbers from 1 to 6, and after changes, the state contains the same numbers. So just compare it to our past example, the previous example. It's not exactly what we should get, right? We want to fix it. So how to fix it? Because we want to modify, we don't want to modify this. The keep state the state the same, but we want to have the new state which actually contains our expected values. So let's define the variable called new state, actually the constant called new state, and just change after change the variable in after changes to new state, and let's see what happened. Now you see our new state has the correct values, right? 4 to 6. That's what exactly we wanted, right? Without any mutation. So it means that each time we modify the state, we actually create completely new state, so we can keep the track how the state was changing in the time during the application runtime. And we need this knowledge and to use Redux. This is really important. And actually, this is all what I wanted to show you today. In the next episode, we are starting to create a sketch of the API endpoint and define our immutable records for our job endpoint, right? If you have any questions or feedback, please write a comment below. Today, that's all. Thank you for your time and stay tuned for the next episodes.